Chapter 1 Return of 001T City. Zhang Family Villa. Early in the morning, the butler directs the servants to be busy in the restaurant. The guards are here at 10 o'clock, and their movements are quicker. Staring at the servant finishing the arrangement of the ingredients and flowers, he tilted his head and looked at the direction of the stairs, frowning invisibly. Miss Meng hasn't gotten up yet? She has a tryout today, right? The butler lowered his eyelashes and looked at the time. His wrist was on the watch. It was already 8 o'clock, and he went upstairs to get Meng Fu up. The upper floor is very quiet, and Meng Fu lives in the last room on the second floor. The butler stood by the door, raised his hand and knocked on the door. His tone was not very respectful. "Miss Meng, are you awake?" There is no sound inside. He knocked on the door and asked again, his expression cold. Boom! The door was slammed with a heavy object from the inside. The butler's indifferent and harsh eyebrows were only slightly fluctuating. He raised his head in surprise. This Miss Meng, although she was greedy since she was recognized back to Jiang's family, also knew a little bit of measure and how much she was. "What's going on today?" Inside the house. Meng Fu got up from the bed while pressing her temples. She looked at the phone that had just been thrown out and smashed the door. She ignored the butler who was still talking. She just lifted the quilt, and her snow-white ankles sank into the dark carpet. "Go to the bathroom." She lowered her head, turned on the faucet, and looked at herself in the mirror. The person in the mirror is wearing silk pajamas, with a loose belt, and the little red mole on the collarbone is like a blazing fire. Meng Fu blinked, with hazy peachy eyes, turning around, swaying and swaying. She closed her eyes, her long curly eyelashes dropped, and a shallow shadow was covered under her eyes. It took a long time before she uttered a word. Fortunately, it's still Lao Tzu's own body. 2 years ago, her soul was sucked into another world, and her body was occupied by a female reporter. It was not until a month ago that Meng Fu's soul returned to the real world, but could only follow the female reporter who occupied her body with the existence of the soul body. Around. Just now, Meng Fu was attracted to his body by a mysterious force. Thinking of this, Meng Fu stretched out his hand and pressed the red mole on the collarbone, gathered his pajamas thoughtfully, went to the closet and turned out a casual beige sweater. The quality of the phone she threw on the door seemed very good, and it rang leisurely at this time. The caller ID is the name of Sister Zhao. Meng Fu's soul has been floating behind the female reporter for almost a month, and he naturally knows that this is her agent Zhao Fan. When her body was taken by a female reporter, she had just entered high school. The female reporter was a liberal arts student who had worked hard in society for several years and did not understand high school science content. Especially when she came, she was recognized by the Zhang family. She left the house rented by Meng Fu No. 1 Middle School, moved into the Zhang family villa, dropped out of school and stepped into the entertainment industry. The children who have finally been admitted to the city are fascinated by the bustling city center and drop out of school to go to the entertainment circle. Where would the Zhang family be willing? But I am really ashamed of this newly recognized daughter, and finally used the relationship to get her into the entertainment circle. The female reporter is really not talented. After 2 years of hard work, she recently joined the Best Idol as a trainee, and she entangled the Zhang family to clear up her relationship. So that the Zhang family was very impatient with her. Meng Fu put the phone in his pocket and opened the drawer of the dressing table. There is a small key inside, is the key to her rental house. Her previous computers, mobile phones, and other things are still in the rental house. The female reporter did not throw away Meng Fu's things, and they all put them in the rental house. Meng Fu finished packing and set off to the Best Idol base camp. She refused the pickup from the Zhang family's driver. There is still some way to go from the villa to the gate of the community. If Zhang Xinran is replaced, Zhang Xinran will naturally not let her walk such a long way. It's just Meng Fu. Zhang will hold back the words. "Miss Meng, be careful all the way." It was not until Meng Fu's figure was no longer visible that the steward Zhang shook his head. Mrs. Mrs. was not at home early this morning. The servants were so nervous and busy. Zhang Xinran could see that something was wrong when she got up in the morning. She looked like Meng Fu and confused, not like Mrs.'s daughter. Just as the housekeeper was about to turn around and return to the house, there was the sound of car horns outside. It is Mrs. Zhang Yu Zhenling who is back. She is wearing a purple cheongsam with a coat outside, her hair is meticulously coiled up, exquisite and rigorous. Did the two ladies go out? The butler was taken aback, thinking that Meng Fu had just left the house, and Yu Zhenling should be able to see it when she came back from the door. Why did it seem like she didn't see it? The thought flashed past, and the butler withdrew his thoughts. Miss went out at 7 o'clock, she took the monthly exam today. Miss Meng has just left, he said hesitantly again, Miss Meng will not come back for lunch at noon. Speaking of this, the smile on Yu Zhenling's face instantly converged, and she said, I know. Although Meng Fu is her biological daughter, she dropped out of high school to enter the entertainment industry, not to mention academic qualifications, and did not even understand the most basic etiquette. Many people in the circle taunted Yu Zhenling overtly and secretly. Yu Zhenling regretted her decision more than once. Compared with Meng Fu, Zhang Xinran is a well-trained eldest lady from the Zhang family. She is proficient in all kinds of piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting. From junior high school to high school, she participated in various competitions and lectures and won various awards. She is a top student in the rocket class of a middle school. These two people are one world each. Until now, the Zhang family has not changed the surnames of Meng Fu and Zhang Xinran. Everyone, including Jiang's father, seems to forget that Meng Fu is the eldest of the Zhang family. Meng Fu's rental house. She took off the sunglasses from the bridge of her nose, and slowly clipped it on the neckline. The rental house was no different from the furnishings before she left. There were 2 rooms, 1 living room, 1 kitchen, and 1 bathroom. It was just that there was no one inhabited for so long, and a layer of dust fell. The door of Meng Fu's bedroom is not locked. She opened the door and went in. The bedroom was very empty. Except for a bed and a table, there was almost nothing else. She saw the old mobile phone at the head of the bed. It was a silver mobile phone with a circular red circle printed on the back. It was not too heavy. It's quite big, bigger than the latest Banana 11 that Meng Fu just threw. The phone cannot be turned on without electricity, and Meng Fu is not worried that the phone will break if it is not used for such a long time. He just reaches out to put the Banana 11 phone card into her previous phone and finds the charger to charge it. It was useless for 2 years. When she plugged in the charger, within 1 second, the phone turned on smoothly and immediately locked on the green charging screen. Meng Fu grabbed the flower pot in the hall, and the key with the dust was pulled out by her, and she directly opened the door next to the bedroom. Is her former study room. The door should have been unopened for a long time. The female reporter probably felt that Meng Fu's bedroom was in space and did not enter the study. The female author must have never expected that Meng Fu's bedroom was impoverished, but the study was full. On the left side of the study is a row of white bookshelves. The bookshelves are full of books. There is a wide variety of books. A tattered small seal script and a barely turned over original text in F are placed together. There is a wicker chair by the window. It looks like it's a bit old, and there is a tea set beside the rocking chair. There was a set of silver needles beside the tea set, and the needle bag had no time to close. There are a pile of notebooks on the desk, the pen holder is full of pens, and the black laptop lid is not closed yet. Meng Fu walked to the table and looked down. The open notebook still contains a string of scribbled English that she wrote 2 years ago on a bomber. Half an hour later, Meng Fu turned on his silver mobile phone. The boot speed is very fast, and the unlock password is 4 special symbols. The female reporter was unable to unlock Meng Fu's mobile phone at the time. In addition, Meng Fu's mobile phone was not a banana, it looked like a second-hand mobile phone. She was useless, so she asked the Zhang family to buy her the latest banana. 11. I also reissued a mobile phone card. As soon as the phone was turned on, countless messages flooded in. It was her previous number. Immediately, the name of Sister Zhao appeared on the screen again. Meng Fu did not ignore this time. Although the female reporter occupied her body, she did not cause her any serious trouble, but helped her avoid a lot of trouble. She glanced at the hall and threw the study key back. The key fell in the flower pot. If anyone is here, she must be able to see that her key fell in the position of the flower pot, which is the same as the position where she just picked it up. Not bad. Meng Fu curled up red lips, pinched the sunglasses on the collar with his slender fingers, and said, "It will be there in 20 minutes. 20 minutes later. Best idol base." Zhao Fan anxiously waited by the door. "This bastard, didn't you say it will be in 20 minutes? She picked up her mobile phone, and when she wanted to make a call, a taxi stopped in front of her. A woman came down from the back of the car. She was wearing white tights and a beige sweater. Her complexion was white and her facial features were delicate. The moment she got out of the car, the sunlight above her head seemed to dim a lot. Meng Fu's black powder called Meng Fu a vase, and Meng Fu was illiterate, but no one dared to spray her for not looking good. "Sister Zhao." Meng Fu took off his sunglasses and hooked his lips to Zhao Fan. Zhao Fan was in a daze, and then she realized. She took Meng Fu's hand and walked inside while hurriedly said, "Have you practiced the group song this week? Has the tune been up to date? It will be your assessment soon." "Yes, this is related to your grouping this time." The soul floated with the female reporter for a month. Although Meng Fu hadn't learned group songs, she had listened to it countless times. She turned the sunglasses in her hand and curled her lips slightly. "It's okay." Zhao Fan stared at her smile, paused, gritted his teeth and said, "Then, what about the English part? There is a section of English in the group song of Best Idol. The female reporter's English is not good, especially the pronunciation, which is neither standard nor smooth." Yi smiles generously. Last week, because of Meng Fu's poor performance, he couldn't utter his words clearly and couldn't keep up with the pitch, so he was denounced in front of the trainees by the popular streamer Xi Nanchange in the entertainment industry. Xi Nanchange as a tutor, patiently taught her, but after teaching, she found out that Meng Fu didn't speak English anymore and didn't even know the staff. Xi Nanchange was so angry that he left the field directly. Zhao Fan is very worried. In this assessment, everyone needs to sing the dance group song individually, which is rated by the instructor. Meng Fu did not answer Zhao Fan, but tilted his head, placing the sunglasses in Zhao Fan's palm, with cold eyebrows and a lazy demon, "Wait for me to come out, baby." Zhao Fan waited in the corridor, thinking of her smile, but somehow he couldn't react. "I always feel that this worried Meng Fu is a bit mysterious today." In the assessment office, there will be an intermission of 10 minutes, waiting for the next recording. The office turned over the paper in his hand. "There is the last person in Class A, and Class B will follow. I'll call Teacher Xi to come." Behind is the instructor's lounge. Xi Nanchange drank a glass of warm water. "Who is next?" The scene took a look. "It's Meng Fu." Xi Nanchange's action of drinking water, he sat down again. "Let the three teachers record it first." The office nodded and went straight out. Best Idol is not really popular at this time. Meng Fu also has a little bit of topicality. Xi Nanchange's agent also knows that Xi Nanchange denounces Meng Fu. He knows that Xi Nanchange doesn't like Meng Fu, and when he mentions Meng Fu, I also remembered one thing: her image is very suitable for the entertainment industry. What do you think? Is it suitable for signing into our company? I have not met her yet. Xi Nanchange lit a cigarette, and said faintly, "The eyes are good and the hands are low, not pleasing, and walking is not long." The agent nodded. extinguished her thoughts of signing her, only smiled. Is she going to test you? Xi Nanchange flipped through the list. No, it's an ear. 2020, thank you all for being here. Brother Fu will spend the new year with you. This time, the heroine is a new attempt. Part of the setting refers to the fifth world in Huahua's fast-traveling book, The Wronged Rich Daughter. The new article wants to break through the emotional drama, ask for collection, ask for support, and ask for comments. Chapter 2002 cannot be compared. I don't know how to sing or dance. I don't even know the staff. Can such a person vote for fourth place in the audience? Xi Nanchange threw the list on the table and leaned back in his chair. For so many years, no, it's not without reason that one can pass the threshold of global idol. The current shows are like this, the topic is hot, and the domestic women's team really needs to cheer. The agent looked at Xi Nanchange, but did not force him to go, but he was relieved. Meng Fu, this person, what can't he do, and he takes the first place in the back door. Xi Nanchange is young and vigorous, strength and fame coexist, but there is one thing, very poisonous. Meng Fu's chorus in the group can't hide her long tune and crappy English, let alone a solo performance. For today's single assessment, if Xi Nanchange was present, he would be able to scold Meng Fu. But everyone in the show knows that Meng Fu has been able to come to this day. There is not only a funder behind him, but it seems not simple. The agent does not know the truth or not, but he does not want Xi Nanchange to cause conflicts. Outside, the single-person assessment site. Teacher Tang Zi raised his head and looked at Meng Fu with a smile. Don't be nervous, are you ready? Meng Fu has changed into the red team uniform representing Class A. She took a black rubber band and tied her black hair slowly, raising her hand to the backstage and making an OK gesture, raising her eyebrows slightly. Casually lazy. She greeted the three mentors and nodded calmly. Tang Zi was a little surprised. It was the first time that Meng Fu, who was so untwisted and arrogant, saw him. Because of Meng Fu's change, Tang Zi's tone was also subconsciously mild. Let's start then, come on. Meng Fu touched the mai on his clothes. She has seen this performance many times when her soul is behind the female reporter, especially the female reporter is facing the group song every day this week. Although Meng Fu didn't listen to these unnutritious lyrics, he still recalled 8 or 9 points. The other two tutors looked up and watched Meng Fu's performance. While watching, they chatted casually about other members. Until the first lyrics appear across the dark. Tang Zi, who leaned slightly on the back of his chair, raised his head instantly and watched Meng Fu's performance seriously. The two teachers who were chatting also stopped chatting and looked at Meng Fu in surprise. She lowered her head and seemed to sing somewhat casually. Although some of the lyrics are not familiar, but they are all tuned. They are no longer like reading lines. The voice is ethereal, and the chorus is very emotional and penetrating. The strong treble is very professional. The most test of singing is the breath. The breath of the members of the entire Best Idol is not as stable as that of professional singers. However, the three instructors found that even when singing and dancing, Meng Fu's breath was very stable. The casual expressions of the three people also became serious. After singing, the music is almost over. Meng Fu did the final finishing touch. In the camera in the background, the staff in charge of the shot caught Meng Fu raising her head. A strand of black hair was drawn along her cheeks to her mouth, and she casually opened the blackness of her mouth. Hair, glanced at the camera slowly and slowly. The pair of dazzling eyes is beautiful, lazy and demon, and it also carries a bit of cynicism in the game world. The staff in charge of photography almost missed a shot. The three tutors are also discussing with each other. Tang Zi took the list and said in surprise, she has made a lot of progress, especially in the English part, except that the lyrics have missed 2 sentences. Her limbs are also very dynamic, but there are a lot of wrong movements, a little stiff. Her voice, very. It's cured, the tone is so good, I just got better from my migraine just now, give me a B. Tang Ziyi felt that Meng Fu's voice seemed to have something more than before. This sound was very comfortable to hear. After thinking about it for a long time, he used one word to describe it. The other two teachers nodded, I agree. It should have been hard work. The voice and tone are very good. She also added the English part, but did not keep up with some of the words and movements. But the B is high, give it C. The three instructors discussed with each other, and finally gave Meng Fu C. The women's team has 5 levels of Audiobook, with A being the highest and E being the lowest. Meng Fu's tutor rating was E last time. In the end, netizens voted for her to be 4th and entered Class A. This time the mentor rating is C, which is indeed a lot better. Tang Ziyi changed her Class C name badge, and said seriously, you can still work hard. The C is given to you because you have not kept up with some of the rhythms and you have made a lot of wrong movements. The tone is your biggest advantage. But on this stage, sound alone is not enough. The final assessment is the overall quality. I am very optimistic about you, and the future can be expected. Meng Fu lowered his eyes, and straightened his C card unhurriedly, thank you, teacher. Her hands were only used for fighting. No one knows, this is the first time she sang this song and danced for the first time. There are no professionals at the scene, otherwise it must be seen that she is no longer just the scope of dancing. Xi Nanchange came back a few minutes later. The relationship between several instructors is good. Tang Ziyi smiled and said to Xi Nanchange while waiting for the next member to perform, you can't guess which class Meng Fu is in this time. E. Xi Nanchange didn't care too much. Tang Ziyi shook his head, really not, Meng Fu has made a lot of progress this time. We gave her C. Her sound is really amazing and has great potential. Would you like to watch the replay? With great potential, there is Ye Shunning Big. Xi Nanchange asked rhetorically. He has taught Meng Fu, but the other party hasn't even learned notation. What's the use of good timber? How long can this road go? This C is mostly the face given to the director group by the instructor. Tang Ziyi was taken aback, then shook his head and laughed, how can this be compared? Ye Shunning is the #1 in Best Idol and a high school student. At the age of 14, she participated in a talent show and won the first place. His overall quality cannot even be criticized by Tang Ziyi as a mentor. Whether it is the mentor rating or the audience vote, she has far away from the second half of the votes. Half of the show is for Xi Nanchange, and the other half is Ye Shunning's fan. These two people who are not in the same world at all, how can they be compared together? New book, everyone's favorite and comment, if there is a free recommendation vote for Hwawa, that is the greatest support for Hwawa, love you. Chapter 3003 A book. Xi Nanchange picked up the list of the next person, that's not it. He meant to make up his mind not to watch it. But the jade is ahead, not to mention Meng Fu, even the second place is quite dim in front of Ye Shunning. Tang Ziyi shook his head helplessly and smiled, swallowing the words I think she can be read into his belly. Outside, after Meng Fu's performance, he saw Zhao Fan waiting for her in the blind corner of the lens, holding her glasses and her sunglasses. Seeing Zhao Fan, Meng Fu slowed down a bit, and looked at Zhao Fan sideways, with the corners of his lips slightly curled up, his slender fingers tapped on the breast badge without hurriedly, indicating Zhao Fan to look. Zhao Fan was stunned for a moment before seeing the obvious C on Meng Fu's breastplate. She couldn't help but stared. At the level of Meng Fu, the pentatonic tone is incomplete, the tune cannot be kept up, and the utterance is unclear. I can barely take E. Today, I still took a C? Seeing her, Meng Fu smiled back, raised his eyebrows, smoothed his wrinkled sleeves, and walked into the waiting room. After she left, Zhao Fanke covered her cheeks with her hands. At this time, the waiting room is filled with people who have been assessed by Class A. The program has undergone a round of large selections, and after layers of screening, 5 classes of Audiobook are left, each with 6, 8, 12, 15, and 24 people. At the end of the program, Class A will be selected and the top 6 people in the popular ranking will form a group. The 8 people in Class B will upgrade their contracts, and the others will be eliminated. At this time, the first 5 people are chatting together in a low voice. Sitting around a girl with long hair and waist, this girl Meng Fu knows Ye Shunning. Because of the camera, seeing Meng Fu lie, the 5 people gave her a friendly look, and then continued to talk to Ye Shunning. Ning Ning, Meng Fu, she actually took C this time, so fast. A baby-faced girl looked at Meng Fu and exaggerated. She is Zhang Ran. She is now 5th in online voting. She made a upright character in the show, because this character who dared to tell the truth attracted a lot of fans. Ye Shunning did not squint, did not look at Meng Fu, listened to the words of the people around her, she also just smiled, not echoing the sarcasm. It's not out of politeness, but she doesn't need to put down her body to mock a person who knows nothing but a face. Meng Fu, who was isolated by Class A, is not embarrassed. She found the uppermost position in the last row and sat with her slender legs overlapping each other. Then he touched a small book from the back pocket of the hot pants, put it on his lap, and looked through it slowly. Other members gradually came in after the assessment. The curator who was in the photography department backstage, when he came to visit, he saw that Meng Fu, who had been unusually attracted and a little gossip in the past, sat quietly on a stool, pointed to the screen in surprise and asked, "What is this Meng Fu doing?" As a planner, he naturally knew Meng Fu. The staff replied, "Reading." "Reading?" The program planner couldn't help but laugh. "What book is she reading?" "Reading under the lens, can you see in?" The traces of this deliberate performance are too obvious. The matter of Meng Fu dropping out of school was just on the hot search last time. Zoom in the camera to see what books she reads, but the program planner loves this topic. He directed the camera to take pictures of books read by Meng Fu, and he anticipated that the next hot search would come again. This is black for Meng Fu, but for their program, it is all about exposure. The staff immediately adjusted the machine, zoomed in on the most recent lens, and took a clear picture of the cover of Meng Fu's book. The cover was a bit yellow, and it said "A Guide to Difficult and Complicated Pig Diseases." Program planning and staff. At the same time, Meng Fu withdrew the book in her hand. She was wearing a red team uniform, and she inadvertently looked at the lens of her glasses, her peach eyes blurred and presumptuous, unruly and wild. It's okay if she doesn't look up. When she looks up, the trainees sitting next to her instantly become the girls next to the queen, dull and dull. The staff member who was full of pigs suddenly woke up. Did she know that we had featured her? No, how can this be known? The staff shook their head again, feeling that their nerves were too sensitive. After more than 3 hours of assessment, all trainees have been re-rated. Tang Ziyi came in to announce the next performance competition system, and 65 trainees were chatting in excitement. Tang Ziyi clapped his hands and motioned to them to be quiet. The next performance will be a knockout system. You will be divided into 8 groups. Team up with a PK competition system, original songs and choreography. It is determined by live voting. The group that wins the first place. Add 100,000 people directly, 50,000 for the second place, 30,000 for the third, and 10,000 for the fourth. Give you 5 minutes to group freely. The bottom 20 with the lowest popularity in the next issue will be eliminated and will still be a public performance. Everyone is very nervous, especially those who are less popular. Hundreds of thousands of air tickets is a turning point. If you can reach Ye Shunning, you will win the game. Everyone knows that Ye Shunning is the first place in the iron fight. When freely grouping, most people crowded into Ye Shunning's group, and her side was extremely hot. There are quite a few people around the hottest players. 5 minutes later, 8 groups were full, and only Meng Fu stood in the middle. Because there are 65 trainees, each group of 8 is full, and one more person is left. Tang Ziyi is more relaxed, he smiled. Is there any group leader who has less vocal? Meng Fu can lead C. He was right in saying this. With Meng Fu's tone, it's okay to train as a vocal. As soon as he said this, almost everyone avoided Tang Ziyi's gaze. Some people even bowed their heads and exchanged their eyes. Vocal is a player who is talented in singing with his own singing skills. Just Meng Fu, a person who hasn't even learned the most basic notation, Master C, as a vocal? What a joke! Tang Ziyi swept around and set his sights on the second team. Zhang Ran, you are a dancer. Almost everyone else in your group is a vocal and jumper, and there will be a lack of vocal in the show. Meng Fu just to fill. Before this sentence was finished, Zhang Ran hurriedly said, Tang, our team has both vocal and dancer. There is no shortage of vocal. Zhang Ran did not want to offend Tang Ziyi, but compared to the importance of her performance, he had to speak. Tang Ziyi also understands how important this performance is to these girls. Meng Fu has an example of a car accident scene. These people are not willing to take her, and it is excusable. When he was embarrassed, he raised his hand by himself. Tang, our team lacks vocal. Meng Fu raised her eyebrows. She looked at the speaker, who was a short-haired girl. She had a neutral appearance, and she was wearing ear diamonds on her right ear, and she looked a little silent. Chu Yu. Tang Ziyi looked at the speaker, a little surprised. Okay, Meng Fu, you are in Chu Yu's group. Tang Ziyi added Meng Fu's name to Chu Yu's group, and then closed the list. Come here today and start a closed 7-day training. 7 days later, it will be your first performance stage. Come on. Zhang Ran heaved a sigh of relief when Chu Yu spoke. In the nanny car, when he heard the group of people from Meng Fu, Zhao Fan breathed a sigh of relief and simply analyzed, your group, Chu Yu is a dance student, Ding Liu can create, and someone has done both the composition and choreography, you luckily, just be a tool man. Meng Fu pulled out the little book, smiling but not smiling, tool man. Well, Zhao Fan responded. Seeing the title of the book she was reading, he almost didn't choke himself. What kind of messy book are you reading? Meng Fu leaned back against the car window and glanced at her. Don't gossip, life is long. Zhao Fan. Brother Suo is coming back, don't show him this book. Zhao Fan said tiredly. 20 minutes later, arrive at an intersection. Meng Fu got out of the car, tucked the book into the pocket of his black jacket, put one hand in his pocket, and put on the sunglasses in the other. Baby, wait for me, pack some luggage, and come back soon. She intends to go back to Jiang's house to get back what the female reporter left in Jiang's house. Okay, you must rehearse with the people in your group tonight. Even if you are useless, pretend that you are useful, otherwise Teacher Xi will say you again. Zhao Fan looked at that sultry and beautiful face. I couldn't help but blush, and it took a long time before he told her behind her back like an old mother. Meng Fu looked at her, laughed softly, then raised his hand to the back. Understood. Jiang's house. Yu Zhenling was sitting on the sofa, smiling and talking to the woman in front of her. The person in front of him is Mrs. Tong, who is a family friend of the Zhang family, and the two generations had a baby kiss when they were young. The two were talking, and the servant outside whispered, Madam, Miss Meng is back. Ms. Meng from the Zhang family, which Ms. Meng could be? The real daughter I recognized 2 years ago. The smile on Yu Zhenling's face stopped, she subconsciously glanced at Mrs. Tong. Mrs. Tong lowered her head and took a sip of tea. She was graceful and luxurious, and her movements were very elegant. Meng Fu, who did not look at the door, seemed to have not heard the servant's words. Thank you for your support, and then this book will be updated 1 chapter a day for now. What book did you read? Chapter 4004 Learning God Gathering Place. At first, knowing about Meng Fu, Jiang's father and Jiang's mother were quite excited. But later, Meng Fu's every move disappointed the two of them so much that they both tacitly did not announce that Meng Fu was the Jiang's business. However, people in the circle know a little bit more or less. After Meng Fu entered the entertainment industry, some of the things that were picked up by black fans could not be taken care of. He dropped out of high school and finally couldn't read decent English. Is just an empty vase. Mrs. Tong knows this matter naturally. T-city nobles who don't know Zhang Xinran, the eldest lady of the Zhang family, gentle and polite, versatile and good-looking. She followed Yu's family since she was a child, and has good calligraphy and painting. The temperament nurtured in the scholarly family is unique. Mrs. Tong has always been very satisfied with Zhang Xinran, as if she had already treated her as a daughter-in-law, who would have killed Cheng Yaojin halfway through. Mrs. Tong was half dead, she would not let her son marry such a thing because she was killed, and she and Yu Zhenling also had a close mind. So much so that Meng Fu returned to Jiang's house for 2 years and never saw the Tong family members once. Isn't there a closed training today, why are you back now? Seeing Madame Tong's head down, she obviously didn't want to take a look at Meng Fu. Yu Zhenling didn't introduce Madame Tong to Meng Fu. I was also afraid that she introduced Mrs. Tong to Meng Fu, and Meng Fu would have other thoughts. She knew in her heart that, just like Meng Fu, Madame Tong would never allow her to enter. Come back and get something. Meng Fu closed his coat and nodded slightly towards Yu Zhenling. Polite and alienated. I went straight upstairs after finishing talking, didn't look much, and didn't ask much. Yu Zhenling saw that Meng Fu didn't say much, she couldn't help but breathed a sigh of relief, and got up to send Mrs. Tong away. I heard that Eru will also go to the capital this time. Yu Zhenling sent Mrs. Tong to the door. The Eru in her mouth is the young master of Tong's family, Tong Eru. Speaking of her son, Mrs. Tong's eyes were rarely softened a bit. He started a business with a group of people and fooled around for a day, so he can take him to the capital. Yu Zhenling knows that Mrs. Tong's family is a big family in the capital, and she married at the same time. The family's connection of Tong Eri's to the capital must be a good idea for training. Tong Eri's future development should not be underestimated. After Yu Zhenling watched Mrs. Tong's car move away, she thought for a while, and then she dialed Jiang's father's cell phone, find a time to talk to the old man about Tong's family, and Meng Fu, let her talk about it again. Back to school, what is going on like this? Upstairs, Meng Fu packed a few pieces of clothes inside, which were brought by the female reporter from her rental house. There is a black suitcase in the cloakroom, but apparently it has not been used for a long time, and there is a layer of dust on it. Meng Fu took it out and put some of her clothes in. Then stood at the gate and looked at the room where the female reporter lived before, took out a key and put it on the table, closed the door, and went straight out. Downstairs, Yu Zhenling was sitting on the sofa drinking tea. Seeing Meng Fu came down, she put down her teacup and said, "Is there time next week? Go to the hospital to see your grandpa when you have time. He is thinking of you every day." Hearing this sentence, Meng Fu paused. She had been following the female reporter for a month, but had never seen her go to the hospital. She raised her head and glanced at Yu Zhenling. Yu Zhenling had already picked up a call. "Xin Ran? Well, since your uncle picks you up, you can follow Yuzhai. You, Mom knows. Well, listen well. Words of your uncle and aunt." After a call, it is already 10 minutes later. The butler smiled and changed Yu Zhenling to see a pot of hot tea, and said with a smile, "It's the young lady, did the uncle take it home again?" The uncle he was talking about was Yu Zhenling's natal family. Yu's family is a scholarly family. Yu Zhenling's father was the principal of T University before. Her brother Yu Yang is a well-known painter. He is highly respected in the art world. Zhang Xinran learned painting from Yu Zhenling's brother since he was a child, and has achieved considerable success now. Treats her better than his own son. Later, it was found out that Zhang Xinran was not the eldest of the Zhang family. Although Yu Yang was disappointed, he was not unfamiliar with Zhang Xinran. Yes, they both fell in love. Yu Zhenling smiled and drank a cup of tea. Then she remembered that Meng Fu was still waiting for her. She looked at the hall and said, "Ms. Meng, is she gone?" The servant replied respectfully, "Miss Meng left 10 minutes ago." Yu Zhenling put aside her smile. She looked at the housekeeper and pursed her lips. She left without saying a word. What do you think she is? She wants to enter the entertainment industry. The father let her in, and said that she would come out in high school. Independent, sensible, polite, and a good boy. If you look at the whole city of T, which good boy is like her? Obviously, there will be no troubles, elm bumps, and a sense of the market. After 2 years of training, it has not been good. In the past 2 years, I have not heard a mother. At the beginning, Yu Zhenling also planned to train a second Zhang Xinran, but now she is too lazy to discipline. Here, Meng Fu went back to her rental house. Zhao Fan has never been here. He was surprised to see this rental house. Where is this? I rented a house more than 2 years ago. At that time, I was going to study in No. 1 middle school. Meng Fu raised his hand and lazily flicked the hair that fell to his shoulders. Zhao Fan followed in and glanced at her. Why don't you say you are going to study at Harvard? T-City No. 1 Middle School, the top 10 schools in North and South. Those who can enter this school are the pride of the sky. There are tens of thousands of college entrance examinations every year. T-City Rocket class is either recommended to AORS, or is admitted to a foreign institution. Is also a college at last. The gathering place for the god of learning. Meng Fu wants to really study in No. 1 middle school, and he won't be laughed at by online groups. If you want to say that, then I can go too. Meng Fu held the usual indifferent, picked up the key in the flower pot and opened the study door. She stood in front of the bookshelf, picked on it, chose a few books, and threw them into Zhao Fan's hands. Put it in my box. After finishing speaking, she seemed to think of something again, and walked out the door. In the study, Zhao Fan is staring at the bookshelves full of the room. Very surprised, Meng Fu doesn't look like a person who can read a book. She walked to the nearest bookshelf and looked at the bookshelf. There was something interesting on this bookshelf. The closest thing to her is a yellowed book, which looks a bit old, with a ragged cover, and 4 words similar to Shenlong classics can be seen faintly on it. Next to this book, is not the Compendium of Materia Medica, it is a brand new The Funeral of. Further to the side, there is a foreign book. Zhao Fan recognized it as F. She took a closer look, and even if the language was extraordinary, she couldn't hide it the fact that this is a fairy tale book. Meng Fu is really poisonous. Zhao Fan is still thinking about this. Suddenly heard 2 rapid diddy sounds behind her. She turned around and looked at it, and she couldn't help being surprised. Meng Fu. You, come here. Meng Fu, holding a bottle of beer in his hand, kicked open the half-closed door and came in. You better have something. Zhao Fan didn't say a word, only pointed stiffly at her computer. Meng Fu bit open the beer bottle cap, squinted a pair of peach eyes, and looked over. On the table, the dusty computer turned on itself at some unknown time, and the grey screen was frantically beating with rows of messy symbols. Thank you every year for providing the name of the Big Brother's fan. In the future, Sister Fu's fans will be puffs. Who doesn't want to make fun? HHHH is really talented. Babies have any other ideas can be written in the comment area. New books ask for collection, ask for 5 stars, ask for reviews, ask for free recommendation tickets, okay. Chapter 5005 Mysterious Counter. At this time, Zhao Fan had already passed countless pieces of shocking news in his mind. Is this the kind of hacker in the Matrix? It's the same in the movie. Meng Fu spit out the lid of the beer bottle in his mouth, ignoring Zhao Fan. walked over and pressed the switch of the computer's mainframe without rushing. Snap! The computer screen goes blank for a moment. Regained the appearance of grey chirps. Zhao Fan's voice stopped abruptly. Meng Fu took a sip, the taste changed a little, she didn't care, she glanced at Zhao Fan, will you be? I will do this in the future. A bunch of hacker wars flashed through Zhao Fan's mind, but for a while, there was nothing to say. She looked at the quiet computer strangely, and almost suspected that she was dazzled just now. She nodded blankly. Means that he will. The book is ready. Meng Fu looked back. Zhao Fan shook his head slowly, immediately. Meng Fu went out for a trip, and then brought back a bunch of bottles and cans. What kind of perfume is this? It smells good. Zhao Fan looked at the colorful bottles and recognized that this was a perfume, but she didn't see any signs, like groceries from a roadside stall, she asked as she installed it. She was. Meng Fu did not look back, I like to pick a bottle by myself. Zhao Fan is a good perfume. He still has a few bottles of limited brand perfume that he is reluctant to use. However, he didn't dislike Meng Fu's perfume and took a bottle directly. 3 minutes later, Zhao Fan, who had been conscientiously helping Meng Fu organize the box, reacted afterwards. How could she suddenly become Meng Fu's servant? Meng Fu packed up his books when he came back and took 2 notebooks. Zhao Fan pulled the black suitcase and opened the door to go out. At the door, there was a man wearing a baseball cap. He was holding the takeaway in one hand and was raising the other, as if he was about to knock on the door. Zhao Fan looked up, and saw a pair of deep and clear eyes, with 3-point distance, shining with broken stars. Even if she had seen countless beauties, she was also surprised. Sir, who are you looking for? The man looked over Zhao Fan and looked at Meng Fu behind her. Meng Fu leaned against the door frame, looked up, and yawned lazily, go in by yourself. The man should be familiar with her room and went straight in. After he entered, Zhao Fan stood on tiptoe and looked inside. Who is he? Why are you looking for? The neighbor on the opposite side. Meng Fu said indifferently. Zhao Fan glanced at Meng Fu suspiciously. In less than 3 minutes, he came out again, holding a piece of paper in his hand. Meng Fu glanced at the takeaway he was carrying in his left hand. Eating takeaway again? Watch out for flies. The man heard the words, looked at her for a long while, gritted his teeth and said, the mouth is still so poisonous, it looks very good. After finishing speaking, he walked quickly into the opposite door and opened the door with the key. Shut the door with a bang. The ashes in front of Meng Fu's door were all shaken away. Zhao Fan gave a tisk and was very curious about Meng Fu's neighbor. He also developed an occupational disease. He followed Meng Fu downstairs with his suitcase. Why didn't you hear that there is such a top neighbor? I don't know him. Are you interested in entering the entertainment industry? Do you have his contact information? Meng Fu's hands are beautiful, thin and long. They are the best-looking hands Zhao Fan has ever seen. When she was about to take the suitcase, Zhao Fan directly stopped her. Subconsciously feel that this is a pair of artist's hands, not suitable for these things. Meng Fu threw the beer bottle into the trash can by the neighbor's door, and replied neither salty nor light, oh, I advise you to get rid of this thought as soon as possible. Will die. Half an hour later, Meng Fu arrived at the Best Idol training camp. When passing by the corridor of the training room, the two heard someone talking at the blind corner of the camera at the stairway. The voice was too small for Zhao Fan to hear clearly, but Meng Fu glanced at the stairs thoughtfully. Isn't that Ding Liu? After taking another 2 steps, Zhao Fan saw one of them clearly and said in surprise. Ding Liu belongs to Meng Fu's group. She is generally popular, but very talented. She is a creative player. Meng Fu let out an and looked back. Let's go. Zhao Fan didn't think too much, so he helped Meng Fu's box move to the dormitory, and Meng Fu went to the training room of Chu Yu by himself. Chu Yu, this team is all in the last training room. When Meng Fu arrived, the other 8 people were still training. Everyone trains under the lens. The rule of survival here is to learn to find the lens for yourself, find the topic, and work hard under the lens, otherwise no one will see if you work hard. Chu Yu saw Meng Fu lie and wiped the sweat from her head. She walked over and gave Meng Fu the dance she had picked up all night. Follow me first, don't know how to ask me. Her nose is tall, her facial features look cool, and her height is about 1.72 meters. She is a popular neutral beauty in the circle nowadays. Meng Fu took the phone and said, "Thank you." Chu Yu nodded coolly, without saying more, turned around and went back to the original position to continue practicing. Meng Fu didn't turn on the phone, and only leaned on the table, laughing lazily. "Hey!" Chu Yu stopped and looked at her sideways. "Have you not noticed that there is no one in our group?" Meng Fu raised his hand, put the phone on the table, took a pen on the table casually, wound up his long hair slowly, and prepared to practice. Chu Yu heard the words and looked at the person in the room seriously. Ding Liuyu was missing. Liuyu is playing music, it is noisy here, and she can't calm down. Meng Fu smiled, "I see." At 1 o'clock in the morning, there are still 2 people in the training room practicing. Chu Yu stopped, took a sip of water, and discussed the details of the dance with the girls around him. "My phone is still at Meng Fu's place. You can go to the bedroom with me to get it." The girl next to her is Wei Jin, a rap-type contestant. She has a good rap. She is not born in dancing, and her popularity is average. She has been actively studying with Chu Yu. Chu Yu and Meng Fu are in the same dormitory. The door of the dormitory is not locked. The 2 opened the door, and they saw Meng Fu sitting on the ground. His upper body was still pressing on his legs with difficulty, revealing a small, thin, white waist. Seeing the 2 came back, she calmly raised her eyes, turned a page, and said hello to them. "Hi." Wei Jin looked at her stiffly. "What are you doing?" "Read a book and practice flexibility." Meng Fu's posture remained unchanged, and he turned the page calmly while speaking. "It looks like reading is fast." Wei Jin bet that Meng Fu's posture can barely be done in the entire training camp, and there are no more than 10, unless he dances from elementary school. Early the next morning, Meng Fu yawned and went to the cafeteria with Chu Yu. Wei Jin also just entered the canteen. After last night, she had a good sense of Meng Fu. Compared to working hard, she realized that she was not better than Meng Fu. Knowing that she was different from the rumors, she took a bowl and sat with them. Seeing that Chu Yu seemed to be in a daze, she couldn't help asking another question. Chu Yu paused, recalling the picture she saw when she woke up in the morning. She paused, and said blankly, "She slept in one word last night." Wei Jin was speechless for a while. She looked at Meng Fu who was waiting for the fried egg. Abnormal, monster. Fortunately, she has a bad tone. Wei Jin poked the porridge, regaining a little confidence, looked up, and saw Ding Liuyu who had just entered the canteen and waved at her. "Liuyu, here." Ding Liuyu looked at them, pursed her lips, and walked over with the toast and the apple. "Can't we let Meng Fu leave our team?" Ding Liuyu sat beside Wei Jin and looked at Chu Yu. "Don't you know how important this performance is to us?" Chu Yu has always been cold, and didn't talk much, and did not explain at this time. She has a strong team spirit, and Meng Fu is a member of her team, so they are one. Meng Fu's omelette was ready. She came over with the milk and sat next to Chu Yu. As soon as she came, Ding Liuyu, who was talking, stopped talking. "I don't know whether to guard her or something else." Meng Fu didn't care, put the phone aside, bit the fried egg, and looked at Ding Liuyu. "Where did you write the song?" Ding Liuyu ignored her. Meng Fu swallowed the fried egg without being angry. He seemed to be smiling but not smiling. The peach eyes seemed to hide the fog. "I have encountered any difficulties, tell me," I will help you fill them together. Help? Throughout the training camp, who didn't know that Meng Fu couldn't even recognize the notes, and Xi Nanchange was so angry with her. She helps, what can she do? Ding Liuyu didn't even look at Meng Fu, she put away her dinner plate, as if she hadn't heard Meng Fu's words, I'm leaving. Humbly ask for a wave of recommendation votes. Chapter 6006 Fully Training. This is the cafeteria, they don't have a wheat, and there is no camera. Ding Liuyu did not need to take into account her personal settings, and showed her dissatisfaction with Meng Fu to the fullest. It is estimated that throughout the training camp, there are not many Meng Fu who like to drag her legs. Which team she is in, it is simply a disaster. Liuyu. Wei Jin opened his mouth when seeing Ding Liuyu leaving behind. Finally, I turned to Meng Fu and explained, she is not like this normally. This time it is because of the urgent time. Tomorrow we will hand over the determined composing and rehearsal dance to the instructor. Our group is just her creative type. Don't suffer. She influences. Today is the second day of closed training. From the finalization of the music to the training to the final performance, there is only less than a week. Almost everyone sleeps for less than 5 hours a day. Meng Fu took a sip of milk. Hearing the words, he only glanced at Wei Jinchuyu, if you need my help later, just say it. Wei Jin heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Meng Fu didn't look angry. Okay. As for Meng Fu's words to help, Wei Jin and Chu Yu only listened casually, and didn't take it seriously. In their eyes, as long as Meng Fu could train with them seriously, that would be the greatest help to them. The stage effect is not only personal, but the cooperation of the whole team. Hearing the perfunctory in Wei Jin's tone, Meng Fu didn't explain, only raised his eyebrows and smiled. Up to now, these two people have unconditional trust in Ding Liuyu. Probably this is the young people's belief in friendship, with the nature of rushing forward without fear, and finally hitting their heads and bleeding. The box on the second floor of the canteen. This is the place where the instructor and the staff eat. Xi Nanchange, carrying bread and salad, sat on the table near the window and ate. Other staff will look at this side secretly, but no one dares to disturb Xi Nanchange. Snapped one person put down the dinner plate and sat opposite him. Xi Nanchange raised his head and saw the middle-aged man at a glance. He politely greeted him, Director Mu. The person in front of him is the General Director of the Domestic Division of Best Idol, Director Mu. How is the quality of this group of students? Director Mu ate the beef noodles chipping and raised his head to ask Xi Nanchange. Mentioning this sentence, Xi Nanchange didn't know who he was thinking of, and frowned, uneven. Hearing the words, Director Mu coughed. He knew that Xi Nanchange was angry with Meng Fu, and he had come forward to resolve it. The bad Director Mu immediately changed the subject and mentioned his purpose of looking for Xi Nanchange. Nanchange, I won't go in circles with you anymore. Do you think anyone can enter Global Idol on our show? After the 6 members of Best Idol form a group, they will participate in the recording of Global Idol together with members from 4 other countries. It's just that the show has been held for so many years. Can't make it. The quality of the domestic women's and men's teams is too poor, and none of them can stand up on the international stage. Has been ridiculed by audiences at home and abroad for so many years. This year's Best Idol in China almost failed. Uncle Mu, we have the lowest ratings in the 4 countries in the regional competitions. Isn't it enough to explain the problem? Xi Nanchange glanced at Guide Mu. His father is a family friend with Director Mu, otherwise he would not enter the Best Idol show this time. The quality of this show is really average in China. To tell you the truth, I signed a gambling agreement to bet that some of us will be able to enter Global Idol this time. Director Mu tapped his finger on the table and thought for a long time. Do you think there is a seed to enter Global Idol this time? A gambling agreement, a common agreement in the entertainment industry, is said to be a gambling, but in fact it is similar in nature to an option. Director Mu has signed a gambling agreement with investors. If someone from the women's group can enter Global Idol, then he can get the investors' funds. If this condition is not met, then he won't get the funds. The whole show suffered a blood loss. This is not a trivial matter. Director Mu told him all his heart, and Xi Nanchanj finally understood that Director Mu was not joking. He took the whole wheat bread, looked straight, looked at Director Mu for a long while, and finally replied, "Maybe there is one." "You said." Director Mu looked at him. Xi Nanchanj put down the bread and spoke word by word, "Yeshuning." Director Mu let out a sigh, "You think about it as I did. This month, you and the other 3 teachers put their resources on Yeshuning and try their best to train her. Not only is Yeshuning popular, she is also a comprehensive trainee in all aspects, the only one who can keep up with the top trainees of the 3 countries in each country. If the 4 instructors in the program group train them with all their strength, she will enter the Global Idol. There is some hope." Xi Nanchanj received this task, and the whole wheat toast in his hand instantly became heavy. Training room. Xi Nanchanj gathered all the people in Chu Yu's group and showed them the original dance. These instructors will always come to see their progress during the training of trainees. Tang Ziyi just came yesterday, and today it is Xi Nanchanj to correct the details of the dance for them. Xi Nanchanj, as a mentor, is indeed capable, both in strength and details. After he demonstrated it again, Meng Fu remembered it. Then practice body shape in the mirror. Meng Fu has never learned dance, but he has learned things to strengthen the body, which is quite messy, so she can do the difficult moves demonstrated by Xi Nanchanj consistently, but it is strange and a little stiff. "I am used to fighting and killing, Meng Fu still needs to get used to doing these ornamental actions that are not lethal at all." She read a lot of books, summarized her current shortcomings, picked out her own problems, and decided to start from the form and flexibility, at least to restrain the murderous aura. After Xi Nanchanj corrected the details of Chu Yu and others, he was going to another class. Tilted his head and saw Meng Fu on the other side, holding Zhang to write something. Fuer took his cell phone out to answer the call again. Xi Nanchanj passed Meng Fu, his eyes did not stay on her for more than a second. It is possible that the talent is not good. Like Wei Jin, the dance foundation is not good, so he works 10 times harder than others, but Xi Nanchanj really can't appreciate a person like Meng Fu who is not talented and doesn't work hard. Let's go. Xi Nanchanj spoke to another instructor. Another tutor heard Meng Fu's scene. When passing by her desk, he was curious about what she wrote, so he looked down and said, "Last time I heard that she was looking at what pig?" The words were not finished yet, but I was taken aback when I saw the content on the paper. Today is also the day to ask for a recommendation ticket. Chapter 7. See you at the end of 007. The tutor is Wen Yu, who is too old and is an artist. The program team invited him to sit here, and he is much more tolerant of these young people than Xi Nanchanj. Meng Fu can be regarded as a major highlight of the show. There are far more rumors about her inside the show than on the internet. A dignified talent show, there was a trainee who didn't even know the numbered musical notation. For her impression, Wen Yu has changed a little last time, thinking that she is still a talent. But now, Wen Yu looked at the words on the white paper, his posture was full of vigor, with iron and silver hooks, and he was not restrained at all. At first glance, he was written by a person with a very deep knowledge. Reading the words like looking at people, this word is really beautiful to the extreme. Wen Yu is good at studying calligraphy and painting, and he is ashamed of the word Meng Fu. Glance at these words, and the short-sighted and low-learned person that Wen Yu saw in the show before is almost 2 images. Wen Yu was surprised. "Ms. Wen." Xi Nanchanj was thinking about Yeshuning's question. When he walked to the door, he found that Wen Yu hadn't followed. Wen Yu was a little bit reluctant, and then retracted his gaze, took 2 steps forward, and said in surprise, "I just found out that Meng Fu's writing is very beautiful. Go and take a look." Words. Xi Nanchanj glanced at the table and smiled, Teacher Wen, maybe you can look at Ye Shuning's words. She won the second prize in calligraphy, but she never mentioned it on the show. Seeing her characters, you know that some characters are not calligraphy. The whole show is dedicated to fry Ye Shuning alone, keeping Ye Shuning hot every once in a while. Listening to Xi Nanchanj's words, when you paused, Nanchanj, you have too much prejudice against Meng Fu. Xi Nanchanj smiled, and did not explain, Mr. Wen, I have something else. Others are practicing dance, only she is writing. Xi Nanchanj is used to this kind of trick in the circle. Xi Nanchanj also went to discuss with the director to invite a personal teacher to Ye Shuning. He greeted Wen Yu and left without looking at the paper on the table. Toilet. Meng Fu leaned against the door, holding the earphones in one hand and stuffing his ears, turning on the faucet with the other to wash away the shallow black marks on his hands. Sister Zhao. It was Zhao Fan who called her. You find a time to come out in the evening, at 6 o'clock, Zhao Fan should be at the company, and his voice is a little quiet, Brother Su is back, remember, you must not be late. Meng Fu leaned on the sink and began to slowly wash his other hand again, what's the matter, we have to rehearse at night. She knew that Brother Su in Zhao Fan's mouth was her assistant. Accurately speaking, Assistant Yun who only lives in the mouths of female reporters and Zhao Fan. Following the female reporter for a month, Meng Fu never saw anyone else. Of course, Meng Fu didn't understand why Zhao Fantang, an agent, called an assistant Brother Su. You didn't always want to find a vocal music teacher. I told Brother Su the other day and asked him to find one for you. He just came back today, so he should help you find the teacher. Zhao Fan pressed his cell phone with his hand. Said, you remember, I will pick you up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Zhao Fan hung up the phone. Meng Fu took a piece of paper from the side of washing his hands and wiped his hands dry before going to Tang Ziyi for leave. Although Tang Ziyi was a little surprised, he didn't embarrass her. Meng Fu is a bit special in the entire program group. Others, including Ye Shuning, never left the program group during training. The exception is Meng Fu. Come and leave if you want. During that time, he rarely lived in the program group. This, even the director acquiesced. Tang Ziyi sometimes suspects that Meng Fu has an extremely large background. Xi Nanchanj came from the other side, just in time to see Meng Fu leaving Tang's office from the back. Why did she come to see Teacher Tang? Xi Nanchanj glanced at Meng Fu's back and asked the staff. The staff paused, ask for leave, it seems to be going. Xi Nanchanj directly raised his hand and said lightly, don't mention her. At the same time, Tea City. An old restaurant in Old Street, full of tea. On the second floor, near the window, the old man sitting on the chair who is very elegant, and the girl next to him sings in a low voice. Seems to bring people into another world. Not long, Zhao Fan brought Meng Fu in. On the second floor, Zhao Fan looked around, asked the waiter, determined a box, then raised his hand and knocked on the door. Soon, the word in came inside. Zhao Fan gestured towards Meng Fu, and immediately pushed the door in. The box is not big, it seems to be burnt with sandalwood, wisps of sandalwood, which calms Zhao Fan's originally nervous heart slightly. Meng Fu has been playing with his mobile phone with his head down, his expression is lazy, and the corners of his mouth are hooked. Smelling the sandalwood, she couldn't help but raised her head. I saw the man standing by the window at a glance. The other party is wearing a clean white sweater, clean and flat, with a graceful posture, like a green bamboo. Brother Su. Zhao Fan said in a low voice. Su Cheng turned around, and Meng Fu saw that he was still holding a teacup in his hand. The cyan teacup was reflected in his well-knotted hands, which became more white and slender, cold and jade-like. He put down the teacup, raised his head slightly, and the light blurred his outline. Sit down first, and people will arrive soon. The voice is calm, like a clear stream in the starlight of a cold night. Meng Fu dragged a chair away and sat down, rubbing his ears with his hands. The sound was really nice. She just sat down. Someone knocked on the door outside. Zhao Fan immediately stood up. It should be the teacher. She went straight to open the door. Out there is a middle-aged man. He followed Zhao Fan in. "Excuse me, are you Mr. Su?" that Mr. Chen said. "Hello." Su Cheng paused his eyes on Meng Fu's face. Fuer looked at the middle-aged man, raised his hand to let people refill a pot of tea. "Did old Chen say that I am looking for you?" The middle-aged man nods. Su Cheng poured a pot of tea again, and Zhao Fan quickly clarified Meng Fu's basic situation with the middle-aged man. "You said it was her." The middle-aged man understood the reason, and turned his gaze to Meng Fu. Zhao Fan nodded. "It's her, teacher, what do you think?" The middle-aged man frowned. He glanced at Meng Fu, thought for a while, and shook his head. "Sorry, I have accepted a student this afternoon." If it was the person introduced by old Chen, he would not easily refuse. But this time is different. The student Xi Nanchange introduced him to him in the afternoon. When Zhao Fan said that, he also introduced the fact that Meng Fu is not at all music theory, making him almost suspect that Zhao Fan was here to break the scene. Choose one of the two, there is no need to think at all. Is still the flower of the ticket. Chapter 8 The Impossible 008 With a soft sound, the Celadone teacup was placed on the table. "Then today, Mr. Trouble has a trip." The tone is not cold or cold, with some understatement of gentleness. It makes people obscure and feels elegant and elegant. "I can teach her a few lessons in my spare time." The man in the middle couldn't help but slam in his heart, always feeling that there was an inexplicable pressure, and he offered to compromise. Meng Fu yawned, wrapped his phone with one hand and the back of his chair with one hand, and turned to Su Cheng's side, with a three-point game human smile. "You're looking for, what an unreliable teacher." Her pair of peachy eyes are always filled with mist if there is no seemingly fog, just smile like this, like a formed fox, demon and charming. Su Cheng was slightly startled by her smile, and then said, "It's my fault." After a while, he set his eyes on the teapot again, and poured tea for himself. "Don't bother Mr. Zhao, Sister Zhao, see you off." As an agent, Zhao Fan understands the worldly humanity naturally. He still smiles and breaks the lonely atmosphere, and sends the middle-aged man downstairs with a smile. Downstairs, the middle-aged man looked at Zhao Fan's back, and then raised his head, looking at the three words Shi Wai Pavilion on the restaurant. Vaguely disturbed in my heart. He took out his cell phone, called the old man of Chen, and asked about Su Cheng's origin. "Mr. Su." The voice of the person over there was a little confused. "I haven't heard the master mention this person." After listening, the middle-aged man recalled carefully whether there was a family surnamed Su in T City. He thought about it for a long time, and ruled out several families. He didn't hear of a family with this surname, so he was relieved. Then there is no need to waste time here. Zhao Fan opened the door cautiously. "I just saw Su Chengzheng standing in front of the incense burner, holding a thin silver spoon and adding sandalwood powder." Meng Fu was lying on the table, putting his hood on his head, as if he was asleep. Don't talk about Meng Fu. Every time Zhao Fan enters this box, she wants to sleep, mainly because of the sandalwood, which is a little hypnotic, but she is timid and does not dare to sleep in front of Su Cheng. Yu Guang saw Zhao Fan come back. Su Cheng put the spoon aside, and glanced at Meng Fu who was lying on the table. "What's the matter with her lately? I dare to sleep here." Zhao Fan also felt that the recent Meng Fu had changed a bit, shook her head, and lowered her voice. "I don't know, but she moved all her family's things to the rental house, saying that she wants to be a good person. By the way, this is what I asked for. The disc. She really made a lot of progress. Brother Cheng, don't scold her." Su Cheng paused, turned back and looked at Zhao Fan. He is very tall, a full head taller than Zhao Fan, and the white linen on his body is soft, which dilutes his vividness to a bit of warmth, making him look more vigorous and vigorous. When he first met Su Cheng, Zhao Fan almost thought he was a child of King Ai who had travelled through 1,000 years, and he did not think he was an assistant arranged by the company to Meng Fu. Zhao Fan was a little afraid to look at him. Although Su Cheng was Meng Fu's assistant, they rarely saw Su Cheng, basically once a month. As for Su Cheng, what Zhao Fan remembers most clearly is that a year ago, Meng Fu was hacked by the entire network in fake singing, and the company almost gave up Meng Fu. The next day, the people on Weibo just forgot about it. Regardless of whether it was the opponent or the public relations, the pretend singing was deleted completely, as if nothing happened. If it weren't for Zhao Fan's screenshots, I thought I had amnesia. Well, Su Cheng reached out and took the USB flash drive Zhao Fan handed him. He looked at the sleeping Meng Fu for a while, his voice was warm, "Wait until she wakes up." When Su Cheng left the door, Zhao Fan still did not respond. When did Brother Cheng speak so well? Every time she saw him, she and Meng Fu hardly even dared to raise their heads. Worked with Su Cheng for 2 years. Zhao Fan knew that Su Cheng had a habit of cleanliness. This box was Su Cheng's exclusive box. Every time he ordered something, she and Meng Fu could not stay for even 1 minute. Today Meng Fu was awake for the first time. When Meng Fu returned to the program group, it was already 11 o'clock in the evening, and she buttoned her hood on her head. When passing by the training room, the lights in the major training rooms are still on. Next time, it is a elimination system. A group of trainees work hard one by one. Meng Fu is going back to take a bath first. As she approached the door of the dormitory, she looked up at the dormitory door, and then walked in casually. The dormitory door was hidden, leaving only a few gaps. Outside the door, Meng Fu could still hear Ding Liuyu's voice, "What can I do? I gave up studying for this opportunity. I will be performing in a few days. The last 20 will be eliminated. Chu Yu, don't you know what my public ranking was like last time? 37. This time I made a mistake in the public performance and I lost this opportunity forever. Ding Liuyu, the music will be handed in tomorrow morning. These days, Chu Yu and the others are fully cooperating with your music to write lyrics and choreography. Now you say you are going to Zhang Ran's team." Wei Jin looked incredulously. Ding Liuyu. "Sorry, I have already told the tutor about this matter, and the teacher agreed." Ding Liuyu did not look at Chu Yu and Wei Jin and the others. "I just told you today." Ding Liuyu admitted that she was sorry for Chu Yu and others for doing this now, but she did not want her next performance to be her last stage. People who enter the entertainment circle, who doesn't want to climb up? She is the same. Their team was not as good as Zhang Ran and the others, but now with one more Meng Fu, her chances are even slimmer. After finishing speaking, she opened the door to go out, just in time to see Meng Fu leaning on the door frame and playing with her mobile phone. Ding Liuyu will have a guilty conscience when facing Chu Yu and others, but not when facing Meng Fu. She didn't even look at Meng Fu, and went straight to the training room. Meng Fu only then entered the dormitory. He was not surprised to see that the others in the group were there, and he only gently closed the door. "I'm going to find Liuyu, she must have something unspeakable." Wei Jin got up directly from the bed. Meng Fu reached out from his pocket and took out the sandalwood and utensils that had been brought in from Su Cheng, and clicked on it unhurriedly. She had already told Zhang Ran. "I saw it at the top of the stairs the night before. You look for it. She is useless either." Hearing this, Wei Jin's face turned pale, and he sat on the bed feebly. Others are also disappointed and unwilling. Meng Fu finished the order and admired the sandalwood. She has always been lazy about everything, and her speaking speed has also been slow. She left, and she didn't even care to help you write music. You don't understand. Wei Jin and the others didn't mean to anger Meng Fu for this. They just smiled bitterly. Our team, only she can fill in the music. The original song that teacher Tang gave us in the past 2 days is in Liuyu's place. We all choreographed and wrote lyrics in accordance with her style. Tomorrow morning, we have to hand in formally. We are all done choreographing and writing lyrics, and we miss her to write the music. I want them to be completely confused. The audience and the teacher will not care whether they have no tracks under what circumstances. Meng Fu turned her head, looked at Wei Jin, stretched out her hand to hook her chin, smiled lightly, "Don't cry, we fill it out by ourselves." Fill in by yourself? How to fill in this? Chu Yu and Wei Jin were completely stunned. Not to mention that they can't write songs. Even if they can, they only need to fill out the songs in one night, which is simply impossible for them. There are some personality differences between the male and female protagonists in this article. The protagonist can be salty or sweet, the girl with 1,000 faces, and the entertainment circle Huahua has not written professionally. When the plot is set up, it will be much better. I hope everyone will take a closer look. Still ask for a recommendation ticket. Chapter 9009 Meng Fu, who knows a little bit of everything the show Best Idol, followed the other 3 countries' subfields. The purpose of is to select the best female group and create a global idol. Naturally, it will not be mixed with water in the selection process, and it will actually adapt, write lyrics, write music, and choreograph. Only 1 week, the first 2 days will have a teacher special guidance to help them find the direction of lyrics and music. Creative players like Ding Liuyu, 2 days can barely determine. And the composing is originally Chu Yu's weakness, let alone 1 night, 1 week may not be sure. While Chu Yu and Wei Jin and the others were still feeling scared and worried about this, Meng Fu had already released his fingers, squeezed his wrists, raised his delicate jaw, and said to Wei Jin, "Bring me a chair." Sandalwood has slowly spread throughout the room. The fragrance is not strong at all, with a little plant fragrance. Wei Jin's restless heart began to calm down, and he recovered a little IQ, so he moved a chair for Meng Fu and placed it respectfully behind her. Meng Fu sat on the chair, raised Erlang's legs, and pointed at the short-haired girl with his fingers, smiling enchantingly, "Brother, do you have a guitar? Borrow me to use it." The short-haired girl has a guitar, but she has never used it, but Meng Fu didn't expect to know it. She pursed her lips, seemingly tangled, before saying, "I'm going to get it now." The girl with short hair brought the guitar to Meng Fu. The guitar is very old. She lowered her head, looking embarrassed. Meng Fu took it in his hand and plucked it twice at random. The sound was not good. Meng Fu did not show anything to the guitar, but reached out and plucked the strings, helping to tune the tone. I tried to press a few tones. At first, some noises were out of tune, and then pressed a few more tones, and the tone was normal. She pressed a chord with her fingers, the guitar was half resting on her leg, and the curly hair on the left fell to the strings inadvertently. The girl with short hair learns the guitar. It is natural to see that Meng Fu is not a beginner, especially except for a few unskilled noises at the beginning. Her movements become more proficient and casual. Almost flew to the sky. The short-haired girl, including others, couldn't help but be stunned. They all know that Meng Fu's pentatonic is not complete, and they don't know the numbered musical notation. How can this play the guitar? Chu Yu realized what Meng Fu meant, took a piece of paper, and began to jot down some harmonies and the main melody. After playing the guitar intermittently, the others were still immersed in Meng Fu's expression when he played the guitar. Meng Fu had released his hand, and his slender fingertips were loosely wound around the chord. "How?" She tilted her head and looked at Chu Yu. Chu Yu's cold face finally loosened, she looked at Meng Fu with gleaming eyes, "Did you pick up the melody score that teacher Tang gave us?" Taking the score is generally self-reliant, finding out the main melody, harmony, and orchestration of the score that you hear. It's just that people who study music professionally can do it. Chu Yu originally planned to study and fill in the music with these people this evening, and was planning to go to Tang Ziyi to ask for a new original song. Unexpectedly, Meng Fu knew that Tang Ziyi had only played the melody twice. But at this time, she didn't have time to ask how Meng Fu got the original song. Meng Fu put down the guitar in her hand and changed the subject. Look at the overall lyrics melody first. Meng Fu just used a guitar to demonstrate some of the melodies she picked up. These, plus a little harmonies and other orchestration, is a successful filling. The willow is dark, and the others are excited to fill in the details. Only the short-haired girl just now, squatting at Meng Fu's feet, pinched the corner of her dress, and asked in a low voice, "You can play guitar? Then you told teacher Xi last time that you don't know staff." Meng Fu is very patient with cute girls. She set up her own horse and said, "I learned guitar with my master's friend for a while, and he didn't have time to teach me notation." The girl with short hair looked sideways at Meng Fu, and felt that Meng Fu's master sounded weird. In modern society, few people say the word master, and they are basically called teacher. Looking at the gleaming eyes of the short-haired girl, Meng Fu swallowed the sentence she hadn't mastered for a few weeks. Meng Fu is interested in everything and learns quickly. After learning one thing, he quickly loses interest, and then goes to find new things. She is often scolded by her master. It looks like everything is good, but in fact it is not good at anything. Waste. Ding Liuyu left Chu Yu's team and went to Zhang Ran's team. The trainees of Best Idol were not surprised, except for Zhang Ran and Ding Liuyu, no one else paid attention. People here just want to stay till the end and sign an upgrade contract. Zhang Ran and Chu Yu belong to the same company, and their rankings are also close. The reason why she wooed Ding Liuyu was to hope that Chu Yu would fail in this performance and the company would abandon her. But she didn't expect that when she confirmed the song with the 4 instructors the next day, Chu Yu and Wei Jin and his party did not show any expressions of depression. Even in high spirits, and discussing with each other together, it seems that Ding Liuyu's departure did not cause any trouble. Zhang Ran stopped at the intersection, glanced at Ding Liuyu, took off the headset, and asked, "Did you fill in the music for them?" No, Ding Liuyu was puzzled in her heart, but she was sure, they didn't even know the original song last night, how could they fill out the song overnight? It should be pretending to be calm. Chu Yu has always been the only one. Expression, you know. As for Meng Fu, she didn't come to train today. When Ding Liuyu said so, Zhang Ran calmed down. She just went into a mess. In fact, Chu Yu's team, even if there is a composer, because of the extra Meng Fu stumbling block, it will be twice the result. Saturday, 65 trainees performed. 2,000 spectators have already arrived. Chu Yu's draw was not good. It happened to be in the 8th group. Everyone who passed the competition knew that too far ahead and too far back would not be good for popularity. Especially this is a public vote for a knockout match. The 7th group happened to be Ye Shuning's group. When they performed, the audience was full of voices called Ye Shuning. Most of the lights on the scene tonight were Ye Shuning lights. After a perfect singing and dancing, Ye Shuning bowed to all the audience. "Thank you teachers, thank you all the audience. Shuning shunning shunning. Shu Ning bravely fly, Ning fans will always follow." Until Ye Shuning disappeared, the voices on the scene slowly disappeared. The 7th group, who is the next group? Yin Bingnian came with 2 roommates. Both roommates are Ye Shuning fans, and she is a fan of passers-by. It's the group of Meng Fu and Chu Yu. One of the roommates put away the fluorescent light, and sighed, "Isn't it funny? Let Meng Fu come to participate in this kind of live performance. What do we listen to her? Should we listen to her lip-syncing? She's gone? What's the point to see? The Best Idol program group is crazy. It's no wonder that the domestic heat is not as hot as the foreign ones. I don't understand why this Meng Fu participates in this kind of competitive program. I haven't studied for a few days, and I don't know anything." Yes, the boy behind Yin Bingnian stood up while pressing the voting box to vote for Ye Shuning. I didn't watch it. Go to the bathroom first. Maybe you can still meet Ning Bao in the backstage. Yin Bingnian, the future fan support president of PUF 2333 is taken according to the name of the fleeting year. Everyone, cheer, you can give other girls a fan name. It is true that this is a competitive book. Recommended ticket. Chapter 10:10 Street Bombing Performance, Dark Horse. After each group of performances, the 2,000 spectators at the scene will press the voting machine in their hands online to vote for the players they like, and at most 2 players can be selected at a time. Finally, the individual votes of each group will be added together and ranked according to the overall number of votes. The top 4 cumulatively ranked groups will receive additional popularity points. In the first issue of Meng Fu, he almost surpassed Ye Shuning's online popularity vote. In the later period, Meng Fu's performance was unsatisfactory, which caused dissatisfaction among Ye Shuning's fans, so most of Ye Shuning's fans are Meng Whisk Black. Naturally, this boy is also. He put down the voting machine after casting the vote, bent over and walked back to the backstage to go to the toilet. Other people, some bowed their heads to chat, and some bowed their heads secretly playing mobile phone and sending friends. The program group is not allowed to Reuters these public performances, because the program will be edited and broadcast next week, but there are too many people on the scene, and the program group cannot control everyone. There are also people who are pure passers-by, such as Yin Bingnian, who just casually watch the next group's performance. On the stage, the host took the microphone and heard the sentence of Ye Shuning's pretend singing from the fans in the front row. He warmed up with a smile without changing his face. Next, we will be the last group of trainees, Chu Yu, Wei Jin, Wu Yetong, Meng Fu. As the host introduces one by one, each trainee will be posted on several big screens in the middle. When Meng Fu arrived, everyone saw her mentor rating C. Fake it, inside story. She deserves to. After the host introduced all the teams, it was the turn of 4 teachers to encourage this group of trainees. Tang Ziyi still feels like a spring breeze. After speaking for a while, he specially encouraged Meng Fu, "Come on, I am looking forward to your performance today. Because I have seen Meng Fu's good handwriting and watched Meng Fu's rating performance, Wen Yu is also looking forward to Meng Fu, come on." Only when he arrived at Xi Nanchinj commented on everyone in Meng Fu's group, and the last Meng Fu was left. He didn't even look at her or comment on her. He put down the pen in his hand and followed the performance list. Opening, you guys start. Meng Fu's song name is Living, Live It. At the beginning of the performance, all stage lights are turned off. The guitar sound is not light or heavy, and it is integrated into the bass in about 2 or 3 seconds. Boom, the rhythmic drum set is added, the stage spotlight is instantly lit, and it is divided into 8 beams and shines on the 8 girls. The sound of drums mixed with ethereal vocals and chords slammed into everyone's ears. The drum set made Xi Nanchinj, who was sitting indifferently sitting on the instructor seat, couldn't help but sit up slowly, squinting at the 8 performers. The 8 people have different sweet styles from the above group. Everyone has a simple and cool style. Some people wear denim trousers and orange jackets, and some wear skull t-shirts. Meng Fu was only wearing a short black t-shirt, a black bracelet was put on his right wrist, and a black peaked cap was buckled on his head. The show happened to be shown on her big screen, and the baseball cap almost covered her. Most of his face showed only the delicate chin. Yin Bingnian had no opinion on the last exhibition match. She didn't go purely because she just watched it casually. After all, she can be regarded as Ye Shuning's passer-by fan. Ye Shuning's age can achieve this achievement, which can only be matched by players in 3 foreign competitions. She has not paid attention to Meng Fu. Except for Ye Shuning, she, like most people in China, pays attention to the other 3 subfields abroad. She was thinking boredly. The first rhythm point has already entered. Chu Yu's singing sounded and the beat started suddenly. The girl wearing a baseball bat in the middle took a small step with her right foot and placed her right hand in front of her. Smooth, strong hands and feet movements. Immediately after everyone made a signature action, everyone danced hard, devoted themselves to the music, sweating profusely, as if dancing on the seaside of the rising sun. Exudes a passionate youthful vigor. Because of the strong short hair rhythm and the constantly changing spotlights, they are the only ones on the whole stage at the moment, and the audience's voices and others do not seem to exist. Yin Bingnian subconsciously noticed the female voice wearing a baseball cap in the middle. Her figure is really beautiful, her softness is high, but her limbs are so powerful that they are terrifying. The music is coming to an end, slowing down from the high and rhythmic drums, only the guitar sound is still good. The girl wearing a baseball cap in the middle made a classic hip-hop breaking action, with one hand on the ground, her left foot in front, and the other hand on her baseball cap, slowly raising her head. Suddenly, there was a boom. The picture freezes, and the dance and singing suddenly stop. On the big central screen, she was in her final framed posture, resting on the ground with one hand and a baseball cap with the other, revealing her dark and misty peachy eyes, lazy and presumptuous. Meng Fu. Yin Bingnian's eyes widened suddenly, and a row of his heart seemed to be missing. The glow stick that had not been picked up by his hand finally couldn't help but pick it up. She occasionally watched the domestic competition area, focusing on the strongest country age competition area. After all, that is the strongest competition area, but her international level is not too high. Yin Bingnian watched the picture freeze, almost unable to remove his eyes. What is the name of this trainee? By the way, Meng Fu. Although she had some stiff dance movements in the process, the 360-degree rotation in the middle was nothing to say. Her body is too soft and too strong. That stiff shortcoming is not a pity. Who else is there? A girl? Chu Yu, these two people are pretty good. Yin Bingnian waved the light stick vigorously and couldn't help touching his arm. He could feel the goosebumps on his arm. This person is definitely another dark horse in the domestic competition this year. After the performance, a group of 8 people, except for Meng Fu, the other 7 people returned to the backstage out of breath. Why are you so energetic? Wei Jin wiped his sweat and gasped to look at Meng Fu. Meng Fu reached out and took off the baseball cap. Want to learn? Wei Jin nodded frantically. Meng Fu turned his baseball cap and walked backstage, slightly curling his lips. Start running with me tomorrow morning. As Meng Fu's roommate, Chu Yu said that Meng Fu's perverted girl can't get up at 5:30 in the morning and run for half an hour in the morning. There is no photography on the runway, so it's the same outside the lens? Wei Jin choked for a moment. Not necessarily. Backstage, all the trainees are in the same room after the performance. There is only one big screen in the lounge. The live voting and total ranking of each trainee will be announced on the screen, and then the total rankings of the 8 groups will be summarized. The lounge has only 16 positions, and the positions are ranked according to the live voting ranking. After each group of performances, the individual scores and the total score of each group will be announced here. Trainees who are not ranked enough cannot sit in their positions and can only stand on the side. The 16 seats are already full of people, and everyone else is sitting on the ground, chatting with each other jokingly. When Meng Fu's group entered, Ding Liuya was sitting aside smiling and talking to others. The ranking of her group with Zhang Ran had already come out, and it happened to be 4th. Add 10,000 people. She will definitely not be in this issue. Will be eliminated. As for the results of Meng Fu's group, no one cares about them. Everyone knows that as long as Meng Fu is in Meng Fu's group, they can't make any waves. The personal ranking is displayed on the screen at this time. No1. Ye Shunning 689 No 2. South Autumn 435 No3. Shen Qing Feng 417 No4. Zhang Ran 409. Ye Shunning is far ahead and looks down upon the crowd. Tall and big flowers, please update quickly. Brother Fu wants a sweet recommendation ticket.